Dumelang, I'm Shani. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Janie's Self-Care Lab. Why do my ankles swell up so much since I turned 30 years old? Now, I had to find out. I went onto the internet as always. I also know I'm not the only one because I've observed this happening to one of my friends recently as I was at home. And other friends have also shared with me that they've observed that very same thing happening to them too. So, since I turned 30 years old, my ankles will swell out of nowhere. Just like unprovoked, Sana, the girlies will just be like, what's up? And this happens, I've been tracking this over time, since maybe let's call it a year and a half ago. It typically happens when I've been sitting down for a long period of time, which we all know in the jobs that we're working these days, it involves a lot of sitting. I noticed, of course, when I'm flying, right? That's why they always encourage you to get compression socks, which I never get because I'm always like, they're not cute. Okay, so maybe somebody needs to create some cute compression socks. And if you already have a plug for cute compression socks, then please plug your girl because yeah. And then it also happens when I have been like doing a lot of up and down, like walking a lot or whatever the case may be. And it also happens when I'm in a hot or humid area. So they occasionally, when I travel to certain countries that are super hot and humid, like your Singapores, your Indonesias, your Thailands, like without fail, my ankles will be swollen. Okay. I will be having cankles. A few years ago when I had my birthday in Bali and my friends came through, like we were just a bunch of girlies, like all 16, 17 of us. I don't remember how many we were anymore, but all of us just like were cute looking girlies with cankles. Like all of us just like struggling with cankles. And so yes, it's not painful. There's no pain. Particularly in my case, there's no pain. The only thing is like I just hate it when I'm like wearing a dress or a skirt and I'm trying to look cute and then like there's just these balloons at the bottom of my feet. But other than that, they don't necessarily bother me as well. So the research that I was doing was to say, well, what is going on? Why is this happening? And how do I, if I have a date, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like in Bali, like, how do I quickly remedy this thing so that I don't get to my date and he's like, whoa, auntie, what's going on? So anyway, so I did a little bit of research. So what I have found out is that swelling in the feet is apparently typically caused by fluid retention and reduced circulation, right? So in other words, this is edema. So like when there's excess fluid, or this is inflammation. Now, there are other causes of swollen feet, such as injuries, which I do have an injury on my one ankle, a previous injury from many years ago. It could also be health conditions, which we're not going to dive into because in this case, we're just talking about like there's no other red flags. It's just they get swollen, and if you track them, you're finding that it's in certain situations. Um, and so this doesn't include any infections, heart problems, gout, that kind of stuff like kidney and liver problems, because those are areas in which you may find swollen feet to be a symptom. However, we're not going to be touching on those. We're talking about just like some general, no pain, no other issues, just like how do we handle them, cankles. Okay, so these occur as a result of fluid retention or as a result of reduced circulation. And this can either be through edema, which is the excess fluid, or it could be an inflammation. And inflammation is when your body is typically responding to an irritation that is happening. And so this is your immune system kind of showing you that like I'm irritated somehow, like something's going on. Or with edema, this is where the fluid retention comes as a result of you sitting down for a super long period of time. So for example, when I was in articles, I didn't really get it much back then, but sitting down for those long periods of time, and even in my previous job, just like being at my laptop in back-to-back calls all day, I was at home, which was great, but I was never getting up and I was working much longer hours than I would in an office. And then there was no like water cooler situation. Do you know what I mean? So there was no, oh, we're all gonna go make tea now, or like, so and so is gonna go and like just take in some sun outside. It was like you're alone and you're just sitting down and you're in back-to-back calls the whole day and just like working. So sitting down for those long periods of time is not good. Um, and also standing for long periods of time. This is another one. I know people who work in jobs where, like pharmacists and like bakeries and there's probably a ton of others that I'm not thinking about where they're not sitting and they actually have to be standing the whole time and doing whatever it is that they're doing. That is also something that can cause fluid retention. And then eating too much salt. Okay, now this, my black people, they know themselves. Because one thing about us, we will salt it all up. We will spice it up on top of that. We just go, listen, Rotella, but salt, too much salt intake can cause fluid retention. And then, of course, the dreaded one that I know we all hate to hear it, but it is something that I actually know to be true is that like when you gain excess weight, so when you are overweight or obese, it puts a lot of pressure on your joints. And one of the places that you'll see that coming through is on your ankles, your knees, Sana. It's wild. Okay, so I had a season in my life where I gained weight rapidly. And the first place where I started to see the impacts of the weight gain was on my knees and then on my ankles, and then kind of like other body parts. But in general, these are always signs of like just you're carrying your ankles and your knees are carrying a lot. We won't touch too much on that today, but it is one of the reasons, okay, to be aware of. Now let's talk about hacks. Okay, because this is the thing that I was like, okay, how do I fix this? And again, because I'm a girlie who doesn't like to wear the compression socks that they give me there in the plane, and then I come out looking like the wobbling cankle lady. Um, and then, when I'm in the lounge, I be peeping somebody looking all kinds of good. And now me and my cankles are there. So how do we remedy this at home? How do we remedy it when you're going to a wedding and you're finna wear that heel? How do we remedy it when, you're going to work and you just wanna just step it up a little and look good? So some of the hacks that I read about is elevating your legs. This we all know, right? Above your heart. So whether you're sitting on a sofa and you like kind of just put up your legs on like a nice pillow. You can also do it while sitting in bed and just like elevate your legs. That's really good. Make sure that you elevate them above your heart. And you can do that for a couple of minutes. What I tend to do is I sometimes sleep, especially when they really swollen. I sometimes sleep with them elevated. By the time I woke up, the pillow's gone. Okay, the elevating pillow's gone. However, at least for the first hour or 2 hours of me sleeping, they were elevated. So that does help. This will help to kind of drain the fluid back into circulation because you're sitting like that and it kind of just flows back. Cold compress. So you can use a cold pack or you can use a towel that you've soaked in super cold water and then like just put it around it. What I like to do, because I don't carry a cold pack with me when I travel, one of the hacks that I've started to do is this is one of my masks, my face masks, but it's the Japanese ones. So there's like 10 of them inside or seven. I think there's 10, 7 sheets. There's 7 sheets in here. And normally what I like to do with this is I like to put it in the fridge, let it get cold when it's summer, and then like put it on my face because cold compress for the face as well, honey. It is a snatcher. Okay, it's like natural Botox. It just so anyway, I love to take one of these. When I have, of course, like a full packet or like I'm like, okay, I've used enough of these. I like to take out one and obviously put it in the freezer. Take out one and then put it around my ankles. What I love about that is like I then get the cold part of the treatment, but then at the same time, it be moisturizing my ankles. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all know the back of your ankles when you're wearing sandals and they looking all kinds of ashy, like they ain't seen cream in 100 years. No, that cannot be useless. That cannot be you. So what I love about this, it's also kind of like a little treatment for my feet. Because it's like a mask for the face, it's pretty big, and so I just wrap it around my ankle and then make sure it really gets in under there. Mo seretheng. I don't know what a serete is on the heel, on the heel, on the heel. I was gonna say I don't know what serete is in English, but on the heel right there, make sure that it moisturizes there as well. And then what I also tend to find is like I'll sometimes be darker on my heels just because of maybe like new heels that I wore or new shoes that weren't like sitting properly and they kind of like give you a little bit of escape, then I have like a wound and it's darker. So what I also love is that like with a brightening mask like this one, when I put it on there, it's moisturizing and then it's doing some brightening stuff as well. And I'll usually do that right after I put some glycolic acid as well. I usually use the ordinary glycolic acid. Once I put that on for exfoliation, which also helps with the pigmentation, then I add this and elevate my feet. Right. So you can do that. You can also do a normal cold compress. You can also do a cold towel. And then a couple of other things is you can massage your foot. But what you want to do is like massage upwards, right? As if you're like moving towards your heart. So what that does, and you can sit down and do it that way, it's a lot more comfortable than if you're like sitting down the whole time trying to massage yourself. So you just like put your leg up on the bed and then just like massage all the way up. And that kind of helps relieve the fluid and kind of flow it back into circulation and stimulate better circulation around that area. Then you also want to drink a lot more H2O. Why? Because actually, when you're dehydrated, even though it sounds counterintuitive because you're like, there's too much fluid, when you are dehydrated, your body tends to hold on to a lot more fluid. So, fluid retention is not what you want. You want your body to operate as it should, and fluid retention is not normal. So, you want to make sure that you're taking in a lot of water. And then you want to take a walk. Some simple things that you can do. Take a walk, literally outside, like a gentle walk, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And you should start seeing a little bit of a difference. Have some ginger tea, apparently, and dandelion tea apparently is also pretty good. And then, of course, compression socks if you're flying, and cold water plunges if you're in a hot place. So, one of the other things I did do a lot of is I wanted to do the ice bucket challenge thingamabobbies where you get into the super cold water, but of course I didn't have that. So when I was in Bali, when I was staying there, I used to get into the shower and literally at the end of my shower, I would like put on super cold water. And I actually loved it. I loved the benefits of it, and I would kind of stay in that cold water for like a minute. I loved the benefits of it, but also I loved that it had a good impact on my cankles, which meant that I don't have to struggle with those. What you can also do is sit in an area where there's air conditioning, but you probably need the air conditioning to be like a lot colder than your normal kind of room temperature. So that it can really make an impact. And also remember that with air conditioning, it's like air conditioning the whole room. So you're not getting directly to your ankles, right? You're kind of just like there. So maybe it's not the most effective, but if you're going out on a date tonight, grab a mask, okay? It doesn't have to be a fancy one. Like it also doesn't have to be a brightening one. It could be any one. Like you could just use any mask that you have, especially calming masks. I find those to be like pretty cheap most of the time, but also like easy to use and great for the skin. It moisturizes, it soothes the skin. Yeah, and remember that when you are swollen, your skin has also had to like a little bit. So that is a soothing mask for the foot would be really good. And if you don't have a proper foot mask, then a face mask also works. All right. Okay, so a couple of things that I actually thought were really good when I was doing my research was I noticed that the Mayo Clinic, which I actually read a lot of their articles and the studies from them or studies that they were involved in, they have a really cool tool that I want to quickly show you guys. Now, I think it can be a little bit overwhelming. However, I do find it to be really cool that like you can, I guess, have this. It's called a symptom checker. And what the symptom checker does is it kind of provides a number of symptoms and you kind of choose a symptom and it guides you. So it's pretty easy to follow. You choose a symptom and then it asks you a number of questions related to that. So I did choose a symptom related to like swelling of the feet. or the legs, and it asked me like a number of questions like the describe the pain, and it's a multiple choice, so you can select like the swelling occurs when, what triggers it, it's preceded by, what relieves it, what is it accompanied by. And I thought that was really cool, and then it like spits out a number of possibilities. Now the thing that I do think is like a with the once you get to the possibilities is that there's like a list of things, and it could be a little bit scary because you've got like thrombosis and you've got like heart problems. You know what I mean? Like it can be a little bit scary, and then you kind of have to read through all of it. However, if I do think it's a nice way to kind of, at least the questions before you look at the causes. The questions I find is a nice way to actually say, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? Is it painful? Is it gradually getting worse as I walk? What triggers it, and just making sure that you're asking the right questions. The best part is on the symptom checkout on the side, there is a part that says when to seek medical advice. So, for example, it says get medical advice as soon as possible if you have unexplained painful swelling of your feet or legs, particularly if it's one leg only, and then the swollen area becomes warm, red, or inflamed, and then the swelling is accompanied by a fever, right? So this is like, now you can, it's unexplained, so it's not related to like PMS. I know there's people who do get swollen feet from like PMSing. It's not like, oh, I've been on a plane, or anything like that. Like it's actually unexplained. You get a fever with it, it's red or warm or whatever the case is, and it's maybe affecting just one side, one foot, or even if maybe it's affecting both sides, right? But if you have other red flags, especially a fever, it's definitely something that you should seek assistance for. And then if you're a pregnant person, it says seek assistance if you have sudden foot swelling, because foot swelling is normal. I think they said in the third trimester when I was reading, it's normal for pregnant people in the third trimester to experience like swollen feet. However, it does say you need to seek assistance or medical care if it's sudden. It's a noticeable change in foot swelling. The swelling is only in one foot or one leg, and there's other new signs or symptoms such as a severe headache, vision changes, so something to do with how you are seeing, upper abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, or shortness of breath. If you're a pregnant person, you want to make sure that those other red flags are on your radar. But if you're like me and it's just, you turned 30 and your body decided, girl, uh-uh. And I actually didn't find anything on the internet about like why this wasn't happening before I was 20, but I do suspect that when I was younger, there was a lot more activity that I was doing in my daily life. Um, and I also think to a certain extent, it's just our bodies are all different and unique. And I think as I've grown older, or as we grow older, our bodies are a lot more sensitive to certain things. It's the same as like when you were younger, like you get hurt and you heal pretty quickly, and sometimes the pain is maybe not even that bad. But as you grow older, your bones are deteriorating, a number of things in the body it starts to like slowly, not too much, slowly, gradually like declining. And so all of those things that were, I guess, protecting us when we were younger, our bodies are a lot more sensitive now to irritation, sensitive to circumstances, environments, and that kind of stuff. So it's important to constantly be listening to ourselves, listening to our bodies, learning ourselves and our bodies. That way we know when it's just my feet are swollen because it's hot versus my feet are swollen, I have a fever, there's this thing, a mole that came out of nowhere that looks a little bit weird and feels weird. Maybe I should go and see a doctor. But anyway, that is all for Jenny's Self-Care Lab today. I hope that that was useful. And for all my Cankle ladies, Aluta continua.